Dr. Brewster obtained his MD from St. Louis University. This was followed by residency at Loyola in Chicago. We also received a Ph.D. under the supervision of Dr. Howard Geisler. He then did a surgical surgery fellowship at Emory University, where he's currently a member of the faculty. So towards the latter parts of my PhD, Dr. Brewster and I worked extensively on several projects. Two of the main ones being developing an external sheath for arterializing vein grafts, and the other one looking at mechanical and microstructural differences between peripheral arteries. So being an engineer, it's been very rewarding and insightful to work closely with a clinical scientist, and it really brings about a whole new level of clinical perspective to my research. So today, Dr. Brewster will talk about some results looking at the angiogenic capacity of mesenchymal stem cells. These are harvested from bone marrows of ischemic amputated limbs, and they serve as a promising autologous source for regenerative therapy. So once again, I'd like to welcome Dr. Brewster. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. That's my stomach growling. Collie warned me to get the sandwich before everybody got here, so. Sounds good. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Pardon me. The colleague was asking me about my voice. I said that I have the privilege of being the head coach for my oldest daughter's basketball team, and they don't have a lack of talent, but they're 0-5. So last night we had practice, and that I figured if I can't coach better, I can yell louder at least. So this is some of the work of our laboratory. Again, we're privileged to have Roy. He was absolutely fantastic. I was very lucky to have him while Rudy was on the Fulbright, and just a great person and a great worker. A lot of us know about peripheral arterial disease. There's a lot of advertisements now that are coming out. It's really been an under-recognized problem, and it's a problem that's going to become larger in the coming years. So it's defined as an abnormal ankle to brachial index, artery index, and that's a blood pressure. That was developed by James Yao. He's an MD, PhD. I believe he's first generation Chinese American. And he came up with this in the late 60s as looking at some way to predict what's the difference between people with claudication or pain when they walk and people who have tissue loss or are at risk of an amputation. And he found that just a simple blood pressure of the ankles and arms would give you a great predictor as to how they would do. And so there's different numbers, but basically you or I are probably about 1.1, which means the ankle has a little higher blood pressure than the brachial artery. And that's thought to be because of a greater capacitance of the lower extremity arteries, as well as gravity's force. So less than 0.9, the error in vascular lab studies is about 0.15. So people use 0.9 as the cutoff. So somebody with a ABI of less than 0.9 has peripheral artery disease. And what that means, they may have no symptoms at all, but these folks who have peripheral arterial disease are at increased risk of cardiovascular events and death. And so that's why it's important. That's why a lot of your doctors will touch, if they still touch your body, will touch and feel your pulses. If you have normal pulses, you probably don't have a problem. If you don't, then you may have peripheral arterial disease. The prevalence is directly related to age, and about 10% of folks with peripheral arterial disease will progress to critical limb ischemia. So the difference between peripheral arterial disease and the different classifications and critical limb ischemia is with critical limb ischemia, you don't have enough blood flow to meet resting demands. So your resting demands are laying in bed, sitting in a chair, healing a little toe wound, you cut your toenail too close, those kinds of things. The incidence of progression to critical limb ischemia is increased in folks with diabetes, as well as in people who smoke, particularly cigarettes. So I'm a vascular surgeon, and vascular surgery is the primary specialty for vascular disease. So we're trained in the open surgery, endovascular, balloon stents, and medical therapy of people with arterial and venous disease outside of the brain and beyond the ascending arch. So the U.S. and Canada were kind of unique, entities, and when the rest of the world was looking at the vasculature as one system and the lungs as a separate one, we were saying, no, it's a chest cavity and a belly and a neck. And so these training paradigms came about in the 50s and 60s. And you'll notice internationally a lot of people will be cardiovascular and do everything from the valve down to the leg. Whereas in the US and Canada, it's pretty much segmented out to cardiothoracic surgeons in the chest, particularly to the ascending aorta, and vascular surgeons after that. There's always disputed territory, and obviously we share a lot of things with our cardiology colleagues, interventional radiology colleagues, and vascular medicine colleagues. Most of the vascular surgeons' practice is arterial disease. About 20% of it's venous disease, and this can be anything from deep vein problems to superficial veins. And then most of our patients are Medicare, and that's why we care for a lot of people with peripheral arterial disease. So these are just some demographics of what the expected age profiles are. And again, we have about 60% of our patients above 65 years of age. And you can see the increasing need. Vascular surgeons are rare. I know some of my colleagues and mentors know vascular surgeons from collaborations, but probably the most famous vascular surgeon's the fugitive. Otherwise, you probably don't know a whole lot of other ones. So there's not a whole lot of us. Our society only has 4,000 members total. There's 8 jobs for every graduate. So lots of need already, and you see the increasing need. I also have an appointment at the VA, and veterans are particularly affected by peripheral arterial disease and have unique needs, and also have the exact same aging profile. In addition to this, there's folks with traumatic amputations, and when they followed these folks through the Veterans Affairs hospitals, they found that these folks are more likely to be sedentary and to have increased blood pressure and smoking, as well as diabetes, which then obviously puts them in the critical limb ischemia risk. So even a traumatic amputation may lead down the road to all the risk factors that would require subsequent amputations. So, you can find your favorite review that will give you a number that makes your grant look better, but somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million folks have critical limb ischemia in the U.S., but the number of amputations is 120,000. This number has decreased over the last 15 or 20 years. With the initiation of vascular surgery fellowships, which Emory was one of the first ones, we will say we are. San Francisco came out the same year. You can follow this critical limb ischemia population, and what you see is a decreased number of amputations and a lower level of amputations as you get vascular surgeons involved in the preservation of the limb. This amputation rate is increased again in diabetes, about 8 times that of the rest of the population. About half of folks who come to you with critical limb ischemia, the only thing to offer them as a therapy, not pain medicine and things like that, but as a definitive therapy, is amputation. That means that their vessels, either proximal or distal, and it's usually distal, are not able to be reconstructed by surgery or balloons and stents. So what happens to these folks if you don't do anything? So about half of them are dead or have a major amputation in 6 months. So it's a terrible natural history. And this has not changed in recent years. Obviously, a major amputation leads to at least a transient loss of independence. And unlike these people who run in the Olympics and the soldiers coming back after traumatic amputation, the likelihood of walking again is dramatically decreased in the aged population after a major amputation. So we know all these folks have these terrible risk factors. We had the debate at Dr. Naram's meeting in Hilton Head about what kind of cells do you want? You want these young, healthy cells, or do you want the aged, disease cells? but nobody's really looked in depth at the age disease cells, and nobody's looked within critical limb ischemia at their MSC content and capacity. And so while I was getting the tissue from these amputated limbs and reviewing papers about people taking marrow out of mice, I was like, well, we should do the same thing here. And I was lucky enough to find collaborators to assist me. So this was kind of the first test of cellular therapy. These were using mononuclear cells for injection. They used the contralateral limb with a saline injection as the control, and they threw a bunch of these bone marrow mononuclear cells into the gastroc or the calf muscle, and then they followed them out to see if they got better. And basically they got better compared to the other side. There's obviously a challenge here in that just like sugar pills work, sham surgeries work. It's been shown in the knee surgery, been shown in adhesions of the belly. In fact, the first heart surgeries were sewn into the ventricle and not bypasses. Art Weinberg was the first one to kind of tell people, well, we should really study this. You know, people got better after these heart surgeries, but they weren't really getting reperfused. And so there's a risk of bias in this. And if anything, I hope you come away with is we haven't done a great job of interrogating the science of cellular therapies. And I hope to be able to bring some of this through our collaborations. This is a listing of a number of the cellular therapy trials. I think that the great thing to look at is the number of patients and the study levels. Almost all of these are small prelim pilot studies. The happy thing is almost everybody gets better. The sad thing is that everybody's doing something a little different, and so trying to compare these or group these is a limited problem or limited solution. Here's a review recently in the Journal of Vascular Surgery by Dick Powell up at Dartmouth, and he's the PI on this Restore CLI trial here in the middle. And he was just looking again at a number of the clinical trials and when they're coming out. And we're right now going to begin to see a lot of the phase 2 and initiation of the phase 3 trials, and this is what's needed. The Restore CLI came out this year as a phase 2, I think Molecular Cell something journal. And what they found, this one was using a unique little culture milieu to make these cells super happy. The exclusion criteria here is these folks couldn't have any revascularization. So let's say you had a blockage up here, but no bypasses in the knee. Well, you couldn't even treat the bypass or the blockage up here. So a lot of these trials are extremely stringent and kind of the worst patients. And I think in the future that we're going to have a more realistic approach and probably more registry situation to really study the effects. They did find that this approach did help people. Interesting, so this was bone marrow. They actually used MSCs, and what they found was that a lot of the changes in the leg that led to wound healing were not angiogenic in as a mechanism, but rather immunomodulatory. So we always hear about these diabetic wounds, and they can be kind of a prolonged inflammatory response that they just can't heal. So it's not necessarily a lack of perfusion in all the wounds. And probably we get something similar to that in people with critical limb ischemia and tissue loss. So the first idea we had was looking at people who require amputation and then salvaging their cells from the bone marrow and banking them. There's at least a 15% risk of contralateral major amputation in folks undergoing amputation, and their arterial exam tends to be symmetric. So if they don't have an intervention opportunity on one side, they're not going to have it on the other either. And so this was the first idea I had, and in collaboration with Epic and Ian Copland, The idea was to culture these from these folks undergoing major amputation and bank them and have those available as cellular therapy. It could be used for the contralateral limb, and about 10 to 15% of these folks undergoing major amputation won't heal their primary wound. So it could also be used initially on that. And so we wanted to see if we could culture these, expand them, and store them, and if they'd still work. So we did that, and we, did the Ian Copland approach, gets a platelet lysate, tests against FBS, use less platelet lysate, tests against FBS, basically all the way down to 2%, it will outperform it, and that we can grow these MSCs up nicely, which is great. Because we weren't sure that they'd have enough robustness to them that could heal them. This is just pictures of the cultures. We're looking at a group that stagnated in FBS, looked terrible, and we changed it out for platelet lysate, and we're able to reculture. Still, they don't look perfect, but they did grow up again. Again, with Ian, we did FACS analysis of these, and these are MSCs. And with even a single culture, we get a pretty pure population. Lucky enough to be at a couple of these meetings. I think it was Ian's, the 11 o'clock meeting here one time this summer, and bothered Todd McDevitt about some of these ideas because I'd really thought his spheroid culturing was very cool. And so I asked him, he does a lot of secretome analysis of his cells. Can we take a look at some of these things and they're supernatant and see what we get? And so this is just using FBS or platelet lysate. Look at a couple, angiogens. And what you see is that these things, even when cultured just in a flask, that you get therapeutic levels of these angiogens. And we did not see a difference between the platelet lysate culture or FBS. They both did fine for that. And using a modification of an angiogenesis assay I learned in Howard Greisler's lab, we put either the microdermal endothelial cells or the microdermal endothelial cells with these MSCs as a co-culture pellet and embedded them in a fibrin glue. So you put a nylon ring around, put the cells in the middle, glue on top, flip it over, glue on the bottom, and you make a cylinder, and then you can quantify them in 2D. And what we found was that the MSCs, as expected, that's how you quantify them, as expected, the MSCs will promote more growth than endothelial cells alone. 1 day, 6 days, this is the co-culture, 1 day, 6 days. So these things secrete the angiogens, and they also stimulate endothelial or cellular invasion. We're currently staining these cells to show which ones actually come out, and do they come out as friends or in segregated areas. So the unfortunate thing of, when you start getting a project going is you realize how ignorant you are. So you start reading papers and going through the references and reading more papers, and a lot of things pop out. And one of the things that we really haven't looked at very clearly, people will talk about but not examine it, is this simply a problem that would be solved by adding cells to a bad situation? Or rather, are there certain things in the situation that need to be adapted as well, or perhaps are more important than adding the cells? And one of the things that kind of strikes me in the leg is as we age, we lose muscle and it becomes fibrofatty tissue. And that fat cells are inhibitors of angiogenesis and regeneration. Speaking with Andres Garcia a couple weeks ago, I was lucky enough to steal some of his time. We were also brainstorming, and the thought was, well, what happens to these adipose tissue-derived MSCs? Well, their de facto differentiation is adipose cells. So they're kind of predetermined to slow down the regeneration. And so the next idea was taking these adipose tissue-derived stem cells from the amputated limbs, particularly in certain regions that are more or less ischemic. And so this was the kind of the first offspring of the original idea. And it's really a little bit interesting, I think, and is lucky enough to get funded through the American Heart Innovative Award. It'll start in January. But what we're doing is we're looking at the cells deep, so by the bone, where it's relatively well perfused in ischemic limbs, and proximal, where again it's relatively well perfused, compared to superficial by the skin, which is the most vulnerable area in critical limb ischemia, and more distal, which is also the more, and seeing what are these cells like, and are their differentiation pathways different, or their predilection to it. And also to see then if you take them from the more ischemic areas, can those things be recovered with rejuvenative culture techniques? And then the idea would be to train or to bring more of the adipose tissue cell MSCs to the areas of need to change this from an inhibitory cellular effect to a more stimulatory or regenerative effect. And so here, using my same cartoons, you can see what some of these arteries look like. This one was actually able to be treated. That's proximal and that's distal. We were able to balloon that up. Lots of times, all you'll see in these people with critical limb ischemia is that artery above and then little circular arteries coming down the leg. Those are arteries that have undergone arteriogenesis, and they're typically right around the nerves. And that's all that you'll get. You won't have any named blood vessel under the knee. So the idea here is that perhaps by changing the ideas of the adipose stem cells, that you can build out from proximal and down through lateral extension, as opposed to trying to make a highway all the way down the leg. And so this was just looking at the these adipose MSCs in 3D culture, and showing again these things invade. Unfortunately, they invade to the point where the pellet will disintegrate in about 5 days. And then you can do all kinds of little pictures for slides where you could show connections between the things and between the pellets. And the idea would be creating little networks that could then be transplanted into ischemic areas and hopefully inoculate or help support a angiogenic process. So that was the thought. And so this is obviously pretty early work, really just getting started this year. We're looking at the secretome now through Todd McDevitt's lab and my lab, my lab for the ASCs and Todd for the bone marrow MSCs, and then determine the impact of the platelet lysate on the secretome profile using more specimens. As you would expect, there's a moderate variability between patients, and we're going to expect, or we're predicting, there's going to be variability within patients depending on areas or the level of ischemia, so all that's kept. And then identifying the differentiation capacity of these. Alex Peister is doing this as part of one of the REM seed grant that we were lucky enough to get. And then the culture rejuvenations with Ian through the platelet lysate, and also through Todd with spheroid culturing of these. We're trying to get that going, or working on that. And then finally, the idea would be looking at all different delivery pathways, including spheroids, to try and build a perfusion supply to ischemic limbs. So I think that the clinical need that we're trying to address, and in the direction that we're trying to get to, is what's really going on when you give cells to people. The vascular surgery basic science meeting is the day before ATVB, and the big headliner session is how to start a cellular therapy program. So it's already occurring. I know one of our sales reps had an Achilles injury, and he went to private practice, and they were injecting plasma into his tendon. And we all know that if you get good plasma, it's probably a good thing. And if you don't, it's probably a bad thing. he was just describing to me the terrible pain of the injection. They use huge bore needles. I was like, really these kinds of things need to at least have a registry format to see kind of how we're doing with people, because whether it's cells or plasma or things, these are all very bioactive substances that are likely to at least influence healing, but also likely to change your immune recognition of these things in the future, kind of like you could get horse plasma once but not twice. And then I believe that the cellular therapy is really going to be an adjunct. So we should look for trials where we do best surgical therapy with cellular therapy, and then best surgical therapy without. And that should be the thing. We shouldn't deny folks a revascularization procedure, even if it's more proximal, but rather treat them the best we can and then see if the cells can help. As far as guidance for trials, I believe the NIH would obviously have interest in this, but I really believe that the future here is VA cooperative studies, and that's something I've been talking to some folks in the region. There's 2 of the sites for the RESTORE trial are PI'd by vascular surgeons in the VA network, and I believe that the VA may be a very good source for getting these things to a true clinical trial. And that's my hope and one of the benefits of my recent appointment at the VA. I told Roy I have to get a much better picture of him. This is us in the morning. You can see me looking same as I am now. Roy and Hyann actually usually look great. Like to thank obviously the IVB, a lot of collaborators, a lot of people who made my reason for staying really great, and everybody I talk to, and when we talk to recruits to our group, I always speak of the difference between Georgia Tech and a lot of other places. At BU, the guy, I was talking to one of their bioengineers, and he was like, now why would you come out, you're not an engineer? I'm like, exactly. That's exactly why I want to collaborate. I don't know this stuff, and it's a real privilege for us. Obviously, our division, Emory and Atlanta VA, my partners who make my time to do research possible, and our patients for being so generous. We've gotten 12 limbs so far. About half of them is from diabetic patients, half from critical limb ischemia without. And right now we're segregating these analyses, putting together to extend this to the VA as well. Hyann, again, is in my laboratory, and Ian, we all know well, Todd, we all know well, and Alex down at Morehouse, who is also IBB faculty. This work was mostly funded through department startup funds, but beginning in October, we got money from RIM, and so thank you all very much for that. And then, obviously, a number of mentors who've helped everything through the year. Lots of these faces I think you all know, but it's been one of the real privileges of learning science as a clinician, and you all are a lot to be thanked for that. And finally, I think I got one with my motto, which was a World War II from the British thing, which means don't let the bastards get you down. My beautiful wife on top, my kids are hiding out in various pictures, and then the vascular group in the middle. So, thank you. Yes, fine.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
So thank you. This is nice to see the clinical perspective. I guess I have a question, maybe a little elementary question.
Yeah.
In critical high limb ischemia, why do the arteries just atrophy downstream of this one point? Is that what, do they just atrophy, and is there a way that you could stop it earlier before it gets to this extreme point if you knew about it? Or did the patients come in later? And
That's a great question. A guy named Heracles Papinos is a MD Ph.D. at Omaha, Nebraska as a vascular surgeon. And we talk about claudication or pain when walking as a pretty benign problem. So your risk of major amputation just as a claudicant, about 1 to 5% at 5 years. Now if you continue smoking, that increases. If you have diabetes, it increases. But we think of it as a very benign problem. And if you do surgery or stents on these folks, you actually increase the risk of amputation because you take away the collateral process when you do this. So he had this idea of, well, none of us really know what happens in claudicants. So he got people to consent to biopsies while they're undergoing procedures for claudication. And what he saw was that there's profound muscular and neuronal changes that are extremely detrimental in claudicants. So we're kind of stuck in a challenging area. If we intervene more, we increase amputation rates. And if we leave them alone, we're leaving profound ischemia. And so I think that the strategy needs to be intelligent and looking what are the causes of this. Because we talk about artery disease, it's kind of like cancer, right? It's 1,000 diseases, right? You have arteriopathies, you have arteriosclerosis, you have atherosclerosis, you have that with diabetic, you have calcific arterial disease. You know, the arterial disease really is 1,000 diseases. And so I think that the real strategies need to be intelligent and geared towards the problem. So if it's arteriosclerosis or kind of the hardening of the artery, well, we have to look at arterial stiffening. And to me, arterial stiffening is that mediary step where therapies can exist. Some folks now are looking at ACE inhibitors in arterial stiffness, vascular wall health promoting it. And I think that that's going to be a very kind of blunt instrument. But I believe in the future we're going to require, we're going to learn more and be able to have more scientifically developed thought processes. And that's one of the research aims of my laboratory, is looking into that arterial stiffness as it relates to disturbed flow. With regards to when you see an artery that goes to the knee and then stops, arteriograms show you the lumen. But we know, I think you all probably see a lot of the pictures, and Luke worked with Dr. Samity on some of this. When you do an ultrasound of that artery, it doesn't look this pretty. Right? The vascular wall is ugly and diseased and ill. And so the Glagoff theory, Vasai Glagoff, who's an esteemed pathologist at U of Chicago, was that the artery maintains lumen as long as it can. And when it does that, the artery wall outer diameter increases and lumen stays the same, but it reaches a point and then it inwardly remodels. And then we also know that when you get ischemic plaques, that you get vasovasorum into these intima flaps, and that those are prone to rupture. So my belief is that arterial occlusion is largely ischemic driven. The same things that make the vasovasorum exist in the first place probably drive the pathology of it later in life, and that they're largely ischemic driven, but that there's a dynamic interaction between flow and the vessel wall, and that's sensed by the endothelium, and that dynamic change will get worse and worse until you get such an oddball flow pattern with a diseased stented wall from arterial stiffness that occlusion is the necessary consequence. So I believe that the only mediary that we can reliably go for is stiffness, but there's no effective therapy for it currently. Very long answer.
But I mean, building on that, if surgery is not an early intervention option, what about cell therapies?
So people have looked at particularly the adventitia and the adventitial stem cells as kind of a predictor of restrictive or inward remodeling, and I think it's very promising. Laser Edelman, I think's coming. I think it may be to market his cellular therapy for arteriovenous fistula anastomoses. And what he's actually changed to now is not delivering the cells then, but using a little ultrasound probe and shooting them in kind of at the end. And he's shown very good data that you can prevent inward remodeling with that approach. And so I think it would be a great idea. The challenge in the leg would be getting cells to exist there from an injection paradigm. You know, from the knee you can get to pretty easily, but as you get down to the tibial arteries, a little harder to be precise.
Are there disparities between races when it comes to this?
It's a great question. There are, you know, living in our country, there are disparities that exist among peoples. And it's hard to tease out if there's a racial or ethnic contribution to it. What we do know is that folks who are underprivileged tend to have a later presentation or utilize an emergency room for primary care. And we also know that, you know, I don't know how many of y'all have had doctor's appointments recently, but kind of touching patients, we're kind of back to the Middle Ages. You don't get a lot touching when you go see the doctor these days. If you do, you probably have a great physician. But these kind of things of getting quality physicians doing quality examinations, as easy as a pulse exam, can be profoundly helpful. There's a little bit of work looking at hypertension with different races or ethnicities. And I've seen, at least in the Southeast, that we're more likely to give calcium channel blockers to African Americans than beta blockers. There's a little bit of data there. My belief, you know, since there's more genetic difference within populations of Chinese people than there is between races, it's probably ethnic driven or socioeconomic driven and not a heritable thing. But we really don't know. Certainly arterial stiffness is increased in folks with hypertension. And I'm always amazed when I see patients how many people are hypertensive when they come into the office. We almost accept in the Southeast a higher blood pressure than we would accept anywhere else in our country. And one of the things we try to feedback is, you know, it truly is a silent killer. And we see a lot of end-stage renal disease in the Southeast, a lot of stroke. And I really believe that we can't be happy that we lowered somebody from 220 to 150, but actually have to get them down under 140. And I think that they've talked about save 1 million lives or save 100,000 lives, but blood pressure control and a good primary doctor, much better than having an excellent vascular surgeon, an excellent treatment group. You know, these basic things are where I think we failed or can truly improve upon in the U.S. Anything else? Well, thank you very much.